Hi, I'm Elise and this is Witch Way. Today I'll be taking you through the witch lore of the house with a clock in its walls. Released in 2018, this horror adventure stars Owen Vaccaro as Lewis Barnevelt, Jack Black as Jonathan Barnevelt, Cate Blanchett as Florence Zimmerman, Kyle MacLachlan as Isaac Izzard, Renee Elise Goldsberry as Selena Izzard, and Sunny Suljic as Tarby Corrigan. The story follows the recently orphaned Lewis Barnevelt, who is sent to live with his eccentric Uncle Jonathan, who, Lewis soon discovers, is a warlock. Lewis begins to study magic under the tutelage of his uncle and his witchy neighbour, Florence Zimmerman. The trio are also trying to track down the source of ticking in Jonathan's magical house, which was previously owned by the warlock Isaac Izzard. One night, Lewis is talked into raising the dead by his schoolmate Tarby, and upon succeeding, it is now a race to unlock the mystery of the house with the clock in its walls and its connection with those long thought dead. This film is an adaptation of the book of the same name by Jonathan Belair. Both draw on some real-world witch lore, and though the movie is quite different, it gives a nod to the book when we first see Jonathan's magical study. The climax of the novel has our heroes frozen in place by a hand of glory, and we see this in the study, the dried hand of a person hanged for murder. And if a candle is made of the fat of the same person and placed onto the hand, when it is lit, it is said to have had the effect of freezing someone in place. Jonathan and Mrs. Zimmerman are introduced as witches, or in Jonathan's case, a warlock.
I think they're a little more than boy witches.
Warlock. Noun. A man who practices magic.
Lewis wishes to learn the art of magic and gets studying, and here we get to see his books. Of course, we have the Tree of Life, which has various spiritual and ceremonial magical interpretations, but then he uses a palmistry chart for levitation, and when trying out his magical skills on a cat, he references a book which contains demonic sigils. So maybe it's not surprising when he then tries his hand at a bit of necromancy.
What's necromancy?
Noun. The practice of communicating with the dead or raising them to life.
The title page of this necromancy book is a mockery of the one described in the novel, which is an actual engraving from Astrology, a new and complete illustration of the occult sciences by Ebenezer Sibley from 1809. It depicts John Dee and Edward Kelly communing with a spirit. Florence Zimmerman is apparently familiar with their work.
I know about every magic language there is, the Alberti cipher, the Enochian glyphs.
Enochian was constructed by the two as an occult language communicated by the angels. In the novel, she also studied works by 13th century philosopher Albertus Magnus, the 15th century astronomer and astrologer Regiomontanus, and the 18th century self-styled magician Count Cagliostro. But the magician they need to worry about now is the resurrected Isaac Izzard, the creator of the ticking clock, who dealt with demons. In the scrapbook, we see illustrations of demons from the Dictionnaire Infernal by Jacques-Collin de Plancy from 1818, including Azazel, whom Isaac made a pact with. And we hear an interesting statement about this demon.
Azazel, to be exact. The fourth prince of hell.
The classical four princes of hell are actually Satan, Lucifer, Belial, and Leviathan, but Azazel falls into this category in the Supernatural series. Eric Kripke, who created the Supernatural series, also brought the house with the clock in its walls to the big screen. So this was probably added as a nod to the series, as both incarnations of Azazel also have the glowing eyes. You can find more on the witches of the Supernatural series in one of my previous videos. To protect themselves from evil spirits and hopefully the newly walking dead, there are jack-o'-lanterns placed out the front of the Barnevelt's house year-round. And for some added protection, they add some horseshoes to the front door.
Jack-o'-lanterns.
They scare away evil, and iron does too. Well, it repels evil, like bug spray. And that is why we have iron horseshoes, and that's why cemetery gates are made of iron.
One story that fuels the folklore behind this has St. Dunstan forging a new pair of shoes for the devil's hooves, but he nails them to him when they are red hot. In order for him to remove them, St. Dunstan has the devil agree to never enter a home which has a horseshoe hung at its entrance. Another story has a horseshoe placed over the crossroad graves of the Paisley witches. 7 people were accused and executed of witchcraft in 1697. One of them, Agnes Naismith, laid a dying woman's curse on the town, and it was hoped that the iron horseshoe would suppress this curse. Look up the Paisley witches for more on that amazing tale. Jonathan also looks for a copy of an infamous witch hunter's guide to combat Isaac.
I know I've got a Malleus Maleficorum around here somewhere.
In the novels, it was actually Selena Izzard that Lewis brings back from the dead. I'm not quite sure why they changed that. I would have loved to have seen more of this film's Selena. She's terrifying. But this isn't the only film adaptation. In 1979, Vincent Price narrates a short film based on The House with a Clock in its Walls as one of 3 novels for the anthology Once Upon a Midnight Scary. In this adaptation, we have a terrible Selena Izzard brought back from the dead, but we are missing Mrs. Zimmerman. I loved Cate Blanchett in this role, and she has played in witchy roles before, as a psychic in 2000's The Gift, and a couple of others, while not actually witches. She just gives off that vibe, as Galadriel in Lord of the Rings when she is referred to as the Witch Queen, and she looks especially badass in 2017's THOR RAGNAROK as Hela. The House with a Clock in its Walls scores 4 lore and was a lot of fun to watch. I wonder if we will ever get to see a sequel, as there are 11 more novels following the adventures of Lewis Barneveld. What did you think of this film? Let me know in the comments, as well as any other witchy recommendations for my witch lore reviews. If you liked this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I have recently reached a subscription milestone, so thank you very much for everyone who has already done so. And as always, thanks very much for watching here on Witch Way.